What's going on, YouTube? JT is your born here, and welcome to day, what are we at now? Okay, Guardians was 10, Avengers 2 was 11, Ant-Man 12, lucky number 13 of the Marvel Rewatch. Damn, there's so many fucking movies at this point, I'm losing track. But yes, finally, we are at Captain America Civil War, or as most people like to refer to it as Avengers 2.5. That's basically what it is. It's the Avengers sequel we probably should have had, but I guess we couldn't have had it without the setup to Age of Ultron. So yeah, Age of Ultron did kind of factor in a bit with the setting up of things to come. So yeah, I guess Age of Ultron in hindsight wasn't completely pointless. It was a bit messy, for sure, but it's just, yeah. Okay, let's talk about Captain America Civil War. So, let's flash back to the year 2016. Beginning of the year, this is kind of where the whole comic movie fandom really went to shit, as I like to say, because we had Batman vs. Superman coming out, then we had Civil War coming out, and 2016 was just hero versus hero. Both movies have pretty similar plots about Symbol of America being tricked into fighting based on some crazy wackadoo plan, and it correlates with them talking about their moms in some way, you know, Martha, and then, you know, Iron Man's being like, he killed my mom. Just heroes being manipulated by some guy in the shadows who's like the obvious villain. And, yeah, so hero versus hero, talking about the collateral damage of superheroes. Man, I never fought, until Man of Steel came out, this is going to switch topics, but nobody ever gave a fuck, it seemed, about collateral damage in superhero movies. Now, it just became such a thing. And everyone's always just like, oh, look at all that collateral damage that the superheroes caused. Look what Superman did. Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, oh my god, just shut up already. It's fucking superhero movie. Just, yeah, I could see some collateral damage things being talked about. But man, it just like, when Man of Steel came out, like everyone was talking about that. Batman vs. Superman, talking about collateral damage of superheroes, deconstructing the superheroes. It just kind of got like, it was the year of heroes fighting heroes. Even in the animated front, you had like your Justice League versus Teen Titans, where it was, you know, the Justice League versus the Teen Titans. It was just heroes versus heroes. That just seemed to be the theme in 2016. I think the only one I remember where there was no real fighting was when Flash and Supergirl crossed over. Like, they were the only ones just taking selfies with each other, having a good time. Like, oh, well, okay then. That's neat. But yeah, it just, the theme of 2016 was hero versus hero. And after Batman vs. Superman came out, the comic fandom, like, obviously that movie got, you know, didn't necessarily get praise. There's elements of that movie I really like, and then there's elements I don't. And that's kind of the same way I feel about Civil War. In fact, I feel pretty much the same way about both movies. I like them both, but there are problems I have with them. I think Winter Soldier is more consistent, and there's elements of Civil War that peak higher, but there's things that drag it down. And if they would have just kind of cut out these little bits here and there, like, I hadn't watched this movie in a while, and I was genuinely, like, really impressed with a lot of the stuff that happened in it. But there are things that just feel really tacked on, and then there's things that kind of ruin things for me. And we'll get to that in a second. So the plot of Civil War, it's set after the events of Age of Ultron a bit. The Avenger and, you know, Captain America 2, Bucky is still on the run, Cap's still in search of him. That plot element's there. There's basically like the Avengers are out on a mission, and something goes wrong. There's some collateral damage that happens after Wanda Maximoff tries to contain a bomb, and it blows something up and kills a bunch of Wakandans. And then from there, this initiates the conflict. You have also this villain named Baron von Zemo, who was out there doing his thing, played by Daniel Bruhl, or however you pronounce his name. So yeah, you got that going on, and he's after this book. He's like, mission report December, was it 16th, 1991, and we come to find out later on that report involves the death of Tony Stark's parents. So Zemo is basically manipulating the Avengers to be destroyed from within. And you also have these things called the Sokovia Accords, where the Avengers are going to operate under the oversight of the United Nations, and there's a dispute amongst the teammates. Captain America obviously doesn't agree with this. Iron Man does, because he feels guilt over, like, everything that he's done. He needs to be put in check. Like, his guilt is worse than ever before, because when he inadvertently created Ultron, he got a lot of people killed. And probably some of my favorite parts of this movie are the serious stuff that happens with Iron Man. When it does that, the movie's incredible. let's see. Yeah, because there's that scene where he's at like an MIT conference. He goes in the back. There's some lady who talks to him, and then it seems like she's going to pull out a gun or something. Stark's really paranoid at this point, and she pulls out a picture of somebody dead, and then she blames Tony Stark for it. And Tony Stark, you just see it in his like expression, like this is just ripping him apart from the inside. She's like, my son is dead, and I blame you, Stark. And I'm like, this scene is taken straight out of Jaws. Like when Chief Brody is confronted by Mrs. Kintner after Chief Brody knew there was a shark out there, but didn't really close the beaches due to pressure from the mayor and them. So yeah, Tony's fear and paranoia has gotten a lot of people killed. And Captain America even pointed this out in the previous film. It's like every time you try and stop a war before it happens, innocent people die. So yeah, this stuff is great. Tony Stark's guilt, why he is kind of the way he is, and Tony Stark's just like fully on board with these Accords. He needs to try and, you know, compensate for his guilt after everything that's gone wrong. I always see he saved the world before, but just his actions have gotten people killed. So yeah, there's that. Then we also have Captain America going after Bucky. Cap becomes an international criminal in this one because he's trying to stop Bucky on his own, like bring him in without killing him. And obviously a lot of police and that are trying to kill Buck, obviously because Bucky gets blamed for this bombing, which is clearly Zemo in disguise, and then that kills the King of Wakanda, which therefore brings in Black Panther. And Black Panther comes in. Black Panther is a badass. Honestly, I like Black Panther more in this film than I do in his solo film. I think he's great in this one. Like, you see, like, vengeance kind of consumes. He's like, I'm going to kill the Winter Soldier myself. And then you see his powers. You see some ass-kicking action sequences. This movie has outstanding action sequences. And, you know, there's no doubt about that. Like, I really love the first hour of this movie. I think the weak points for it really come in for me. Honestly, when, after the Winter Soldier escapes, because we see he was manipulated by just a few simple words, again, there's some similarities between this and Batman vs. Superman, where they say the word Martha, and he's like, why did you say that name? And he kind of goes crazy a bit and just stops. The Winter Soldier, they say a bunch of random words like freight car, blah, 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 because of his internal programming to set him off. And that's when Captain America takes him, and they go out, and he's trying to go find this guy named Zemo, who they figures out was behind the bombing. So they're going after him to, you know, because he says he's got more Winter Soldiers, so they're going to try and put a stop to that. Obviously, Iron Man shows up later, and then then there's like the big epic battle at the middle of this airport. Now the battle is fun, but there's no real emotional stakes in it. The only one who really feels like he's really like trying is Black Panther, because the other fight's just like, okay, you guys, it's not like you're just kind of fighting because we need a fight in the movie. You don't really need to get to this point. The only fight that really mattered between hero versus hero was Iron Man, Bucky, and Cap. That one's way more understandable. This one, Iron Man's just trying to bring him in. Instead of just kind of being like, okay, let's just go to this place, we'll humor you for a second, Captain America, then we'll take you in. No, just couldn't do it. But Tony Stark obviously understands his point of view. He doesn't want the Avengers to break apart. He's paranoid. He feels guilty, and it's just destroying him from the inside. But the issues with this movie come from me. The humor at times really takes you out of the moment, especially in that fight sequence. Ant-Man and Spider-Man, it's cool to see them in the movie, but they don't need to be here at all. Spider-Man feels completely tacked on, out of nowhere, because we're setting up a new Spider-Man, and we want to set up a relationship between him and Tony Stark. Granted, the stuff with him and Tony Stark is good, it's just unnecessary in this movie. I honestly think this movie would have been better if it would have focused solely on Iron Man and Captain America's conflict and the Avengers that we've already established. We don't need Ant-Man in there. We don't need Spider-Man in there at all. They're completely tacked on. The only reason Spider-Man got thrown in there was because, and you can tell, because they weren't sure if they were going to get Spider-Man, so they just tacked him onto this movie, like last minute, because they had to make the deal with Sony. And it's cool to see Spider-Man act amongst the Avengers, but he is so tacked on and forced into this movie just for the sake of this battle. He doesn't need to be there. Like, this whole bit really adds nothing to the plot. I mean, I guess it sets up a good relationship between Tony Stark and Spider-Man, because they've been trying to put Tony Stark in a mentor figure, father-type figure, but they didn't know how to do it for the longest time. And they're like, oh, let's get him with Spider-Man. And it honestly works very well. Like, the relationship, the father-son type relationship between Tony Stark and Peter Parker grows throughout the course of these movies. And it's well done. It is well done. Like, the chemistry between Tom Holland and Robert Downey Jr. is pretty good. But like I said, it's tacked on. And even in the fight sequence at the airport, I'm having fun with it, but I'm not taking any of it seriously. There's no, like, the only one who I'm really taking seriously is Black Panther in the fight scene, because he legitimately just wants to kill Bucky Barnes, because he blames him for everything that happened. So, yeah, I like the stuff with Bucky Barnes and Black Panther. Black Panther is like, okay, I can understand this dude being in this movie. So, and it does a good job setting him up for his origin story. So, Black Panther you keep. Honestly, you need to get rid of Spider-Man and Ant-Man in this movie. That's kind of my issues, because they're just tacked on. They don't need to be here at all. And even at the end of the movie, like, he's just there for the fight sequence, and then that's kind of it. Just like, we want to add Spider-Man to this fight sequence. Let's just throw this little bit in here, kind of out of nowhere. Other gripes I have, the gigantic ass title cards. Like, I'm like, why are they there? Like, it's just like Cleveland. It's like the biggest ass title cards I've ever seen. Like, covering the whole screen. Like, okay, guys. I mean, it's just a little pet peeve of mine. Just was like, okay, we don't need this for every location. So, but yeah, there's that bit there, and the ending of the movie irks me so much, because they could have ended it like a few minutes earlier, and it would have been perfectly fine, because now all the lasting stakes are gone. It should have ended with Captain America dropping the shield. That would have been the pitch-perfect ending. It would have been a very bleak one, but because this was a Marvel movie, and at the time, it was like, oh, we can't have lasting stakes in these films. Yeah, so let's get to the final fight bit, because like my favorite part of the movie is this bit right here, where Tony Stark finds out the truth that Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier, had killed his parents. And the acting on Downey Jr. is incredible right here. You just see it, like, his whole world kind of crushed, like, right before him. You see vengeance. And you just, like, the part where he's like, did you know, Rogers? Damn it, did you know? He's like, yes. And then you just see Iron Man just kind of break. He's like, it wasn't him, it wasn't him, it wasn't him. Hydra had controls his mind, but Iron Man didn't care. He killed his mom. And then they get into conflict. And then you see Zemo listening to a message from his family. Black Panther comes in. And Zemo's whole thing was like, I knew I couldn't kill them. Men more powerful than me have tried. But if I could get them to kill each other, it would have worked. And it pretty much did. And then Black Panther ultimately realizes vengeance consumes him, and it's consuming him. He's like, I'm not going to let it consume me again. Because he realized he was going... His vengeance had affected the way he was thinking clearly. He just kind of went straight up and was just like, oh, I just see Bucky Barnes did this. I'm going to kill him right away. And it consumed him, and it took over him, and he realized it was ultimately wrong. You should have just listened to Captain America. And then he comes to find out later in the movie, he tries to make things right by helping Bucky Barnes throughout the film. But yeah, it's kind of an emotional one right there with Iron Man and Cap. The fight there is great, and ultimately Bucky loses his metal arm. Captain America and Iron Man have their fights. Cap's trying to stop Iron Man. Iron Man's completely, like, on the warpath. Kind of, like I said, kind of like Batman versus Superman, where Batman's on the warpath, not thinking clearly, his fear and paranoia. There's a lot of similarities between the films. Fear and paranoia. Superman's trying not to fight, but, you know, there's ways to avoid these conflicts. Iron Man, I felt like it was more natural in this film because of everything that was set up from Iron Man's point of view. Well, Batman's point of view in that movie was... you could totally understand where he was coming from. Superman didn't want to fight, just like Captain America didn't want to fight. So, where am I at right now? Okay, yes. The scene where Cap drops the shield, I love it. I think that should have been the ending of the movie, where Stark's like, my father made that shield, you don't deserve it. Captain America drops the shield, that's it. I mean, there's some other stuff that happens too. Rhodes gets paralyzed and can't walk, although he gets the metal legs, like, afterwards, so he's just walking in, like, the next movie with his legs, which, you know, it was meant to further add to the divide. Iron Man's pissed off as all hell. He's just, like, you just see him just, like, gradually becoming angrier and angrier and just more broken by the time this movie's finished. Although, my biggest gripe with this film is the ending of it. It pissed me off when I was in the theater, because it finally, I was like, okay, lasting stakes. If we really would have ended on this emotional high note with Captain America dropping the shield, that would have been the perfect ending to this film. Perfect ending right there, but they blew their wad. Immediately the next scene, we're blasted with the joke about a Stan Lee cameo. I love Stan Lee's cameos, but the timing couldn't have been any worse. Comes in there, is like, is there a Tony Stank in here? Yes, this is Tony Stank. I'm like, okay, you just completely took me out of the moment, the seriousness of the scene, by adding a pointless joke right in there. It irritated me. I'm like, what are you doing? And then all of a sudden, like, Captain America gives him the phone. You think that's going to be the big divide of the movie with the shield. Captain America gives him the phone, and I'm like, oh, hey guys, it's okay. We're breaking everybody else out of prison who was captured in the fight scene at the airport, and there's no lasting stakes. We're pretty cool at this point. There's no real divide anymore. There's no big, like, they have to work to come back together. That irked me so much in the theater. Like, I left the theater really upset about it. Even to this day, like, obviously, you know, things have gotten better since then. Like, obviously we're going to get the reunion in Endgame of Tony and Steve in, like, his side of the team and his side of the team, but that's still, that ending still kind of irritates me. Winter Soldier's one was pretty abrupt. This one's like, okay, Captain America and them, he's got everyone. He's getting everybody out of the prison. They're perfectly fine. I don't like that more triumphant feeling into this movie. If if this movie would have played it serious, cut out Spider-Man, cut out Ant-Man, end on Captain America dropping the shield, would have been better than Winter Soldier. But Winter Soldier was more emotional to me. Its plot nothing really felt tacked on, per se. There's some more interesting twists. I feel like this movie in some ways peaks higher and is more grand scale and epic, and there's some better action in this one. But that bit with the ending just irked me so much in this movie when I saw it. I mean, I've gotten over it a bit now, and I've grown more accustomed to it, but it just felt tacked on and forced. Like, we could have had this really gripping ending with Captain America dropping the shield. And then you can have your credit sequence with Cap and Bucky and Wakanda. That would have been perfectly fine, but it would have been the right way to go out, I feel like. It just feels like you kind of just, it's like Return of the King. It's like they just keep adding more and more endings. I'm like, no, you had it. It just irks me. It would have been perfectly fine to end it a certain way, but no, they just couldn't help themselves. They had to have, like, okay guys, we can't have them go home kind of depressed and angry. That's the ending to Infinity War, where it's kind of the sad one. I'm like, Infinity War's ending is perfect. Like, that's the perfect way to end that part of the story. And, you know, Infinity War's the type of ending I would have liked for Civil War. End it right there. It would have been perfect. But yeah, so overall, I really do like Captain America Civil War. I would like it more than Winter Soldier had those, like, grievances, or had my issues, such as okay, let me rephrase that. I would have liked it more than Winter Soldier had it not been for those issues I brought up. The humor takes me out of the situation. A lot of it's unnecessary. The conflict between Cap and Tony is great. And what else is like? When it gets really serious, that's when it gets really good. If the movie would have just stayed more serious, I mean, obviously you can have maybe a few little quips here and there, but for the most part, they kept the movie serious, which I liked. And I liked the first hour more than, like, the second half of the movie. Like, honestly, when Spider-Man shows up, that's really where my issues start to play, because Spider-Man feels tacked on. And then it kind of irked me too is when you got to this film, and just honestly, the time frame when this came out, it kind of took me out of the whole comic book movie fandom for a while, because like I said, 2016 there was this versus Batman vs Superman. Comic book fans and people, like, everywhere were just, like, up in arms with each other. One movie got criticized for adding too much at once, and one movie was perfectly praised for it. It was just kind of the thing. It was just like, I like both movies the same way, but I'm just like, okay, if you're going to praise this movie for this, or if you're going to criticize this movie for this, you should be willing to criticize the other movie for this one. There's just things that frustrated me in this one and that other movie. I don't know why this turned into Batman vs Superman and Captain America debate, but I had to talk about the time setting of when this came out to really, like, get into the discussion. So, yeah, there's that for what it's worth. But yes, Captain America Civil War is still a good movie. There's some great scenes in it. There's just some things that take me out of it and just kind of hurt the movie for me. I still don't like this ending. The ending is honestly the worst part of the movie for me, because they had the perfect ending to go out on, but they just kept going. They couldn't help themselves. They couldn't trust their audience to leave them on that note, because, like, it would have been the much more emotional impact ending. Like Infinity War. Infinity War ended on the right note. They wiped out half the universe. If they would have, like, taken that type of ending and stuck it on Civil War, it would have been great. But still, the Russo brothers proved that they are the best thing to happen in the MCU. Obviously, they did this. They're doing Infinity War. We'll see what happens with Endgame. I'm super hyped for that film. But after this, we're going to go to the next solo film. It's setting up the next batch of characters with Doctor Strange. So there's that. Alright, I'm excited to see what's next in the MCU. I haven't watched Doctor Strange since the theater, but let me know your thoughts down below of what you think of Captain America Civil War. I still like the movie, just have my gripes with it, so yeah, there's that. Anyways, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much for watching. Comment, like, subscribe, and stay tuned for tomorrow as we talk about Doctor Strange. That's pretty good, but it's taken. Alright, that's a Spider-Man reference. Alright, I've talked enough. Take care now. Bye-bye then.